The sun poured its golden light over the sprawling wedding venue, turning the tall glass windows into shimmering mirrors that reflected the excitement and elegance within. Guests moved gracefully through the grand entrance, their laughter blending with the soft notes of a string quartet. Women in flowing gowns clutched small purses, while men straightened their ties, whispering polite greetings. The air smelled of fresh roses and candles, a scent that spoke of perfection. This was a place where every moment felt cinematic, where memories were made to last a lifetime. Among the crowd, Alexander, a young millionaire known for his charm and sharp intellect, leaned casually against a polished railing. Dressed impeccably in a tailored navy suit, he exuded a quiet confidence. But despite his poise, he seemed out of place. His friends were joking around him, but Alexander's attention was elsewhere. He scanned the crowd with a detached air, his eyes trained yet distant. His phone offered a momentary distraction, but he didn't need it. Alexander was accustomed to observing life, to noticing details most people missed. And on this day, he sensed something was about to disrupt the carefully ordered world he so often relied upon. The wedding guests began settling into their seats as anticipation built for the ceremony. Conversations hummed, champagne glasses clinked, and photographers hurried to capture every fleeting smile. Just as the orchestra softened its music, a ripple of murmurs ran through the crowd. All heads turned toward the grand double doors, which had just swung open with dramatic flair. And there she was, Sophia, the bridesmaid. She appeared as if from nowhere, slightly disheveled, her cheeks flushed, her hair tousled as if she had run across half the city to get here. Her dress was slightly askew, and her shoes barely carried her gracefully across the marble floor. Every eye seemed to follow her as she moved, apologizing softly to those in her path, her voice light but laced with a nervous energy. Alexander's gaze locked onto her instantly. In that fleeting moment, it felt as though time slowed, the music dimmed, and the entire room faded into the background. He couldn't explain it, but something about her presence stirred a sensation deep inside him, a pull so magnetic it made his chest tighten and his thoughts scramble. It was a spark, subtle yet undeniable, as if fate had deliberately timed this very second for their paths to cross. He tried to look away, telling himself she was just another guest he didn't know, but his eyes betrayed him. Every step she took, every hurried gesture, seemed choreographed to captivate him. Her nervous smile, the gentle tilt of her head, the warmth in her eyes, it all pressed against something in his soul he had never recognized before. The ceremony began, but Alexander couldn't focus on the officiant's words, the bride's radiant smile, or the well-rehearsed vows. Every detail blurred into the background as his attention remained solely on Sophia. She approached the bride and hugged her tightly, whispering a quick apology for her delay, her energy undiminished. Alexander found himself memorizing every nuance, the way her hands moved, the subtle sway of her posture, the delicate shimmer of her earrings catching the light. He felt a strange, unexplainable connection, as if meeting her had unlocked a door he didn't even know existed, a door to a feeling he had never allowed himself to explore. Even after the ceremony concluded and applause faded into the background, Alexander's eyes searched for her. Sophia was now helping other guests, laughing softly at their jokes, her nervousness mingling with a grace that made her seem effortlessly human. To Alexander, every smile, every glance, every moment she spent elsewhere only intensified the ache in his chest. He knew he needed to speak to her, to bridge the gap between fascination and reality, but a strange uncertainty held him back. The reception began, the hall now glowing with soft candlelight. Guests moved between tables, wine glasses in hand, their laughter intertwining with the music. Alexander moved through the crowd subtly, keeping his distance while stealing glances at Sophia. She had found a quiet corner by the floral arrangements, her gaze lingering on the delicate petals, lost in a world of her own. The golden hue from the setting sun streamed through the windows, casting her in an almost ethereal glow, highlighting every contour of her face. Alexander took a deep breath and began to move toward her, each step careful yet urgent. The sounds of the reception blurred around him. The clinking of glasses, the soft laughter of friends, the faint rustle of gowns, all fading into insignificance. As he approached, she turned her head, and their eyes met. This time, the pause was mutual, heavy with unspoken questions and a sudden awareness that something extraordinary was unfolding. Neither spoke at first, simply holding the gaze, feeling the current of connection flow between them. Alexander finally found his voice, casual yet intentional, as he commented on the flowers. "They're beautiful," he said, trying to sound effortless, though his voice trembled slightly. Sophia's lips curled into a small, shy smile, her eyes sparkling in a way that made his heart leap. She replied softly, acknowledging him, yet completely unaware of the storm she had just ignited in the millionaire's chest. Each word, each breath, each laugh between them seemed to stretch in slow motion, impossible to look away from. Their conversation was brief, but the impact was profound, creating a connection that seemed to transcend the room. As the evening wore on, they found themselves drifting toward the balcony, overlooking the city bathed in sunset hues. The crowd faded behind them, the twinkling lights outside reflecting in their eyes. They shared small smiles, shy laughs, and fleeting glances that carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. Alexander felt a mix of fear and exhilaration, a fear of losing this chance and a thrill at the possibilities this connection might hold. Sophia, too, felt something she couldn't yet define, a warmth spreading through her chest, a fluttering hope she didn't dare name aloud. The night deepened, the music softened, and the guests settled in for dinner. Yet, Alexander and Sophia remained by the balcony, caught in a bubble of silent conversation and stolen glances. Every fleeting touch of their hands near the railing, every tilt of the head, added layers of tension and anticipation. Alexander realized he could not leave without knowing more about her, without asking the questions that burned in his mind. Who is she? What brought her to this wedding? And why does she feel so familiar, yet so new? Sophia, sensing his curiosity but unaware of its depth, smiled softly, her heart beating faster at the intensity she could feel but not name. The suspense lingered. Guests laughed and danced in the background, but the focus remained on the subtle tension between Alexander and Sophia. Their eyes met repeatedly, a silent exchange that hinted at the story to come, a tale of love at first sight, destiny, and the unfolding magic of two souls colliding unexpectedly. As the music swelled for the first dance, Alexander and Sophia shared one final, lingering look that promised more. It was a connection neither fully understood, yet neither wanted to let go. The night was still young, and their story had just begun. The evening air outside the balcony was soft, carrying a gentle breeze that rustled the delicate petals of the nearby floral arrangements. I stood beside her, both of us leaning slightly against the railing, the city lights below shimmering like 1,000 tiny stars. Neither of us spoke at first, caught in the quiet tension of a moment that felt suspended in time. My mind raced, replaying her every gesture, every laugh, every shy glance from the ceremony. I could hardly believe that someone so effortless, so radiant, could have entered my world so completely without warning. I wanted to reach out, to touch the warmth I felt emanating from her, but I hesitated, unsure if my boldness would frighten her. She, on the other hand, felt a mixture of curiosity and cautious excitement. I'd noticed her watching me earlier, the intensity in her gaze, the subtle way she had been drawn to me like a magnet. And now, standing here in the quiet glow of the balcony lights, I felt that pull again, an energy I couldn't ignore. I finally spoke, my voice low but steady, meant only for her. "I didn't expect to see you here alone," I said, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of my lips. She returned the smile, small but genuine, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I just needed a moment," she replied softly, her eyes not leaving mine. "It's a lot, you know? All the people, all the attention." Her voice carried a trace of nervousness, but also an underlying strength that fascinated me. I nodded, understanding more than she realized. "I know exactly what you mean," I said. "It can feel overwhelming, but sometimes stepping away is the only way to see things clearly." A silence fell between us, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was filled with unspoken understanding, a connection that seemed deeper than words could convey. My chest tightened with the desire to know everything about her, yet I also sensed the fragility of this moment, the delicacy of our first real interaction. I didn't want to rush it. I wanted it to last, to savor each heartbeat and each quiet glance that passed between us. She, feeling the intensity of my gaze, realized that there was something extraordinary in the way I looked at her, a mixture of fascination, admiration, and a vulnerability she hadn't expected from someone so composed, so confident. The wind shifted slightly, carrying the scent of blooming roses and the faint aroma of the city beyond. She inhaled deeply, letting the scent ground her while she tried to understand the strange emotions swirling inside her. Sensing her hesitation, I decided to speak again, this time with more openness, allowing a fragment of my true self to shine through. "I've never met anyone like you," I said honestly. "There's something about you. I can't explain it, but I feel drawn to you, in a way I've never felt before." Her heart skipped a beat. She had heard words like this before, from people who had admired her from afar, but there was a sincerity in my tone, a depth in my gaze that made her pulse quicken. She wanted to reply, to say something meaningful, yet her mind struggled to find the words. Instead, she simply smiled, letting the silence speak for her, and I took it as encouragement to continue. "I know it sounds sudden," I said, my voice dropping even lower, "and I know you don't know me, but I can't stop thinking about you since I first saw you. There's a connection here, something I can't ignore." She looked at me, her eyes wide, reflecting the city lights below and the complexity of emotions she was feeling inside. She wanted to ask me questions, to understand why I felt this way, but she also feared the intensity of the moment, the vulnerability it required. I noticed the hesitation in her eyes and gave her a reassuring smile, my voice softening. "We don't have to rush," I said. "I just wanted you to know. That's all." For a long moment, we stood in silence, watching the city glow beneath us, the sky darkening to a rich indigo, punctuated by the faint shimmer of stars. The world seemed to shrink to just the two of us, a private universe suspended in time. Her thoughts swirled. Was it possible to feel this strongly for someone she had just met? Could the way her heart beat faster at my presence be real? As for me, I felt a mix of exhilaration and fear. I had always been in control, always calculated my every move, yet with her I felt unmoored, vulnerable in a way that thrilled me and terrified me all at once. Suddenly, a gentle sound from inside the hall reminded us of the ongoing celebration. A soft laugh, a clink of glasses, the swell of music. It pulled us reluctantly from our private bubble, yet the connection lingered, unbroken. I gestured toward the hall, my eyes locking with hers. "Shall we join them?" I asked, offering my hand with a casual elegance that belied the intensity of my feelings. She hesitated, then smiled and took my hand, allowing me to lead her back inside. The moment our fingers brushed, a spark seemed to pass between us, subtle but undeniable, and my chest tightened with a mixture of anticipation and longing. Inside, the reception was alive with energy. Guests mingled and danced, laughter bouncing off the walls. I guided her to a quieter corner near the floral arrangements, away from the crowd yet still part of the celebration. We talked quietly, our voices barely above a whisper, sharing small stories about ourselves, our interests, and fleeting glimpses of our pasts. She learned that I have a passion for architecture, that I love books I never seem to have time to finish, and that beneath my millionaire persona there's a man who notices the small details, the little things that most people overlook. I, in turn, discovered her love for painting, her fascination with cityscapes, and her gentle way of seeing the world with both imagination and practicality. As the conversation flowed, our comfort with each other grew, a subtle rhythm developing between words, gestures, and glances. I noticed how her eyes lit up when she spoke of her dreams, how her laughter carried a melody that lingered in the air, and how her nervous energy softened when she realized she was being genuinely listened to. She, meanwhile, felt a strange sense of safety around me, a warmth that contrasted with the uncertainty she often felt in social situations. The intensity between us grew, but it was never overwhelming, a careful balance that made the connection feel both exciting and real. Hours passed unnoticed as we continued our quiet conversation. The guests danced and celebrated around us, oblivious to the world forming between us. I felt the weight of the night, knowing that moments like these were rare, fleeting, and precious. She, too, sensed the magic in the air, the kind of connection that couldn't be forced or replicated. She allowed herself to be present, to feel without judgment, and to embrace the subtle pull of destiny drawing us closer. At one point, I suggested we step outside again, toward the garden terrace where fairy lights twinkled in the evening darkness. The path was lined with rose bushes and small lanterns, the soft illumination creating an intimate, cinematic atmosphere. We walked side by side, shoulders brushing occasionally, exchanging smiles that spoke louder than words. My heart pounded with every step, while she felt the thrill of anticipation mingling with a delicate tension, a sense that something important was about to unfold. On the terrace, we found a quiet bench beneath a flowering arbor, the soft glow of lanterns reflecting in our eyes. We sat close, but not too close, the air between us charged with unspoken feelings. I looked at her with an intensity tempered by gentleness. "I know this is sudden," I began, my voice soft, yet firm. "But I feel like we were meant to meet tonight, like something in this moment was waiting for us both." She looked at me, her breath catching slightly. I feel it too," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's strange. I don't know why, but it feels like I've known you forever, even though I just met you." A pause fell, heavy with emotion as we sat silently, letting the weight of our words settle. I reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face, my fingers lingering near her cheek. The electricity in that touch was undeniable, a tangible connection that neither of us could ignore. She felt warmth spread through her body, a mixture of excitement, fear, and longing, as she realized the depth of the attraction between us. Time seemed to stretch and bend, the sounds of the reception fading into the background. The twinkling lights, the gentle rustle of leaves, the faint hum of the city below, all became part of the intimate atmosphere surrounding us. We talked in small, measured sentences, sharing stories and confessions, each one building layers of trust and understanding. I discovered her love for quiet moments in nature, for spontaneous adventures, and for simple joys that I had long forgotten to appreciate. She learned about my ambitions, my fears, and the parts of myself I rarely showed to anyone. By the time we returned to the main hall, the night had deepened, the reception winding down. Yet neither of us wanted the evening to end. The connection we had forged was undeniable, a spark that had ignited in a single glance and now burned brightly, promising a story that neither of us could yet fully understand, but both were eager to explore. As we rejoined the crowd, we exchanged one last look before parting ways for the night, a look filled with promise, anticipation, and the kind of silent understanding that can only occur once in a lifetime. The morning after the wedding, the city streets glistened under the early sun. Alexander sat in his car, lost in thoughts of Sophia. Her laugh, the glow in her eyes. He couldn't believe someone he'd just met could leave such a mark on him. It was unsettling, yet completely thrilling. Today, he decided he wouldn't let hesitation win. He would reach out, even if it scared him. Meanwhile, in her cozy apartment, Sophia sipped her tea, thinking about Alexander. The energy between them felt like more than just a coincidence. But she was apprehensive. His world of wealth and attention seemed so different from hers. Could someone like him truly care for someone like her? Still, she smiled, remembering the sincerity in his gaze. Just then, her phone buzzed. A message from Alexander. "Good morning, Sophia. I hope you slept well. Would you like to meet for coffee today?" Her heart skipped a beat. A mix of excitement and nervousness washed over her as she stared at the screen. Her fingers hovered, then typed a reply. "Yes, I'd like that." His response was almost instant. "Great. There's a cafe downtown I think you'll love. How about 11? By the time Alexander arrived, the cafe was humming with morning life. He spotted Sophia immediately at a corner table, sunlight streaming across her face. She looked up and smiled, and in that moment, the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them. "Good morning," he said, sliding into the chair. His usual confidence felt softer here, melted away by the warmth of her presence. They ordered coffee, their hands occasionally brushing, each touch sparking a quiet electricity. Alexander asked about her life, listening intently, fascinated by her gentle passion for even the smallest things. Sophia, in turn, carefully tried to understand the man behind the millionaire persona. Time seemed to slow down. The clinking of cups and murmurs of conversation faded into a distant hum. Alexander noticed how her eyes lit up when she talked about painting, and Sophia saw the genuine warmth behind his gaze. A soft drizzle began outside, making the cafe feel even more intimate. Alexander suggested they move to a window seat to watch the rain. Sophia agreed. Now they sat side by side, their shoulders occasionally touching, sharing quiet glances. The world outside blurred, leaving only the two of them and the growing excitement between them. Alexander finally broke the silence, his voice soft. "I know we've only just met," he said, "but it feels like I've known you longer. This connection, I can't ignore it." Sophia's heart raced. She wanted to say she felt it too, but hesitated, a little overwhelmed. She simply nodded, her eyes shining. He took that as encouragement. "I don't expect you to feel the same," he admitted, "but I had to tell you. Otherwise, I'd always wonder what could have been." The tension between them grew, sweet and almost unbearable. Sophia found herself leaning closer, drawn in by his honesty. Alexander felt the same pull, an irresistible urge to reach for her hand, to see if this spark was real. The rain outside fell in a gentle rhythm, matching the beat of their hearts. Finally, Sophia found her voice, quiet but steady. "I feel it too," she admitted, a wave of relief washing over her. "I don't know why, but there's something about you. Something I can't explain." Alexander's smile was slow and filled with awe. "That's all I needed to hear," he said. "We'll take it one step at a time. No rush, no pressure." They spent hours in that cafe, sharing stories and discovering surprising similarities. He learned she loved old bookstores and rainy afternoons. She discovered his softer side, the man who read poetry and sketched buildings in his free time. Each revelation built their connection, creating a foundation for something extraordinary. When they stepped outside, the rain had stopped. They walked side by side, their umbrellas overlapping. At the corner where they had to part, Alexander paused. "Would you like to see me again?" he asked softly. Sophia smiled, her eyes bright with a newfound confidence. "Yes," she said, "I'd like that very much." He felt a wave of relief and joy. They exchanged a brief, lingering handshake that felt like a promise of more moments to come. As Sophia walked away, she glanced back one last time, meeting his gaze. They both knew this was just the beginning. Back in his car, Alexander replayed every moment, every laugh, every shared secret. For the first time in a long time, he felt completely unguarded and dangerously hopeful. Sophia, back in her apartment, felt the warmth of their meeting linger in her chest. Was it possible this connection could last? Deep down, she knew the pull she felt was undeniable. As evening fell, Alexander sent a simple text. "Thank you for today. I can't wait to see you again." Sophia replied almost immediately. "Neither can I." The glowing screen was a quiet symbol of the bridge forming between them, a promise that this was much more than chance. Their story, now intertwined by a spark neither fully understood, had just. The days after that first coffee date were a beautiful blur. Alexander and Sophia were caught in a whirlwind of messages, quick, funny, deep, each one a tiny thread weaving their hearts closer. Alexander couldn't get her out of his head. He'd be in a meeting, staring out the window, picturing her smile, hearing her laugh, remembering how her eyes just got him. Sophia felt it too. The echo of their conversation followed her into her studio, her heart doing a little flip every time his name lit up her screen. It was perfect. Almost. But when things feel too good to be true, the world has a funny way of testing you. The first cracks in their perfect bubble started to show, subtly at first. Alexander's friends noticed he was different. He was distracted, his mind miles away. One afternoon, his best friend Daniel cornered him at lunch. "You've been off, man," Daniel said, trying to sound casual but failing to hide his concern. "I haven't seen you this invested in anything that wasn't a multi-million-dollar deal in years. Who is she?" A small smile played on Alexander's lips. He couldn't hide it even if he wanted to. "Her name is Sophia," he admitted, the name itself feeling special on his tongue. "She's different. I can't explain it. With her, I just feel more." Daniel leaned back, his brow furrowed. "Look, I'm sure she's amazing, but you need to be careful. Your life? It's complicated. All this," he gestured around at the opulent office, "it comes with strings. Relationships in this world, they don't always work out the way you see in movies." A sliver of doubt pricked at Alexander's heart. Was Daniel right? Could he really merge his high-stakes world with Sophia's quiet, creative one? But then he remembered her laugh, the genuine warmth in her eyes, and the doubt vanished. He wouldn't let fear win. Not this time. Meanwhile, Sophia's days flowed on, but now they were painted with thoughts of Alexander. She'd be mixing colors, working on a new piece, and suddenly a memory of his hand brushing hers would make her stop and smile. Her quiet life suddenly felt brighter, more exciting. One evening, as she was cleaning her brushes, her phone buzzed. It was him. "Dinner tonight? I want to see you." Her heart did a somersault. She typed back instantly, a huge smile on her face. "I'd love that." The restaurant was something out of a movie, a rooftop terrace overlooking the entire sparkling city. Alexander got there first, a nervous energy buzzing under his skin that was completely new to him. And then he saw her, walking towards him, her dress flowing in the gentle breeze, the city lights dancing in her hair. She was radiant, effortlessly, breathtakingly herself. In that moment, he knew he was in deep. Dinner started perfectly. The conversation flowed, punctuated by easy laughter. Alexander was completely captivated, watching the thoughtful way she listened, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her art. He was fully present, his phone ignored, his world shrunk down to just this table, just her. Sophia felt it too, the intensity of his gaze, the way he made her feel like she was the only person in the world. Every time their hands brushed across the table, the air crackled with a tension that was both thrilling and a little bit scary. But then, the outside world intruded. Alexander's phone buzzed, a message from his assistant. "Reminder, your business dinner with Mr. Crawford is at 9. Important client." He glanced at it for just a second, but it was enough. Sophia saw it. A tiny flicker of unease sparked inside her. Was he really all here? Or was she just a pleasant distraction between business deals? He sensed her shift immediately and tried to bring the focus back to them, but the mood had subtly changed. And just as their main course arrived, The universe decided to throw them another curveball. A woman, impossibly elegant and radiating confidence, approached their table. "Alexander," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "It's been a while." Sophia's heart dropped. Who was this woman? The way she said his name. It was familiar. Too familiar. Alexander's polite smile seemed a little strained. Vanessa, his ex. Vanessa's eyes slid over to Sophia, a calculated, cool curiosity in her gaze that felt more like a judgment. "And you must be Sophia," she purred, a tiny, knowing smirk playing on her lips. The air grew thick with unspoken history. Alexander, ever the composed businessman, made the introductions. "Sophia, this is Vanessa. Vanessa, this is Sophia." The names hung in the air, a declaration of past and present colliding. Sophia held her composure, nodding politely, but inside, her mind was racing. She tried to tell herself it was nothing, a coincidence. People have pasts. But that little seed of doubt, planted by the business text, now had fertile ground to grow. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Alexander handled it like a pro, keeping his conversation with Vanessa polite but brief, his attention constantly returning to Sophia. But he couldn't hide the subtle shift in Sophia's posture, the way she had pulled back, just a fraction of an inch. The perfect, intimate evening was now tainted with insecurity. After what felt like an eternity, Vanessa finally left. Alexander immediately reached for Sophia's hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "I'm sorry," he said, his eyes pleading with her to understand. "She's my past. You're my present, Sophia. That's all that matters." A wave of relief washed over her, but the anxiety didn't disappear completely. She nodded, her heart still hammering against her ribs. She was torn between wanting to believe him completely and the lingering sting of Vanessa's appearance. They finished their dinner, the conversation lighter now, but the shadow of what just happened remained. Alexander knew it. He knew that trust, once shaken, couldn't be fixed with just words. He'd have to show her. After dinner, they walked along the edge of the terrace, the city a glittering tapestry below them. The air was cool against their skin, and they walked in a thoughtful silence for a few moments, a small but significant space between them. Finally, Alexander stopped and turned to her, his expression serious, his voice steady. "I know tonight wasn't perfect," he began, "but I need you to know something. I don't just want a moment with you, Sophia. I want more. I want to be someone you can trust, completely. Someone who is here for you, through all of it." Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. It was everything she wanted to hear, everything she was terrified of hoping for. She closed the distance between them, taking his hand and holding it tight. It was her answer, her promise. "I want that, too," she whispered, her voice trembling but sure. I don't want to get hurt. I want this to be real." He squeezed her hand, his gaze locking with hers. In his eyes she saw a promise stronger than any words. "It will be," he said, his voice full of conviction. "We'll face whatever comes, together. I promise." The hope that bloomed between them was fragile, but it was real. The evening's tension had softened, replaced by a new, deeper understanding. As he walked her home, the city lights reflecting in their eyes, they knew their story had just survived its first real test. This wasn't just a fairy tale, it was something real, something worth fighting for. Before they parted, they shared one last look. A look filled with questions, with hope, and with the quiet certainty that this was only the beginning. In the days that followed, a quiet tension mingled with sweet anticipation. Alexander and Sophia kept seeing each other, filling their time with laughter and deep conversation, but trust, they both knew, was a fragile thing. Sophia's mind would sometimes drift back to that dinner with Vanessa, replaying moments that made her doubt. Alexander, feeling this delicate balance, knew he had to prove his devotion through actions, not just words. Each date was a a chance to strengthen the bond that had sparked the night she was late to the wedding. On a bright, crisp Saturday, Alexander invited her for a walk along the riverside. The city was humming with weekend energy, joggers, laughing children, and couples strolling hand in hand. Sophia arrived in a simple, elegant dress, her hair dancing in the breeze. The moment Alexander saw her smile, the smile he'd fallen for, his heart skipped a beat. They walked in comfortable silence, a silence heavy with unspoken feelings. Finally, Alexander spoke, his voice low and steady. "Sophia, I've been thinking. I know my world is complicated, and I know there have been moments that made you unsure. But I need to make one thing clear. You are not just a part of my life. I want you to be my life. Every decision, every day. I want to share it all with you." Sophia's chest tightened with a rush of hope and cautious joy. She searched his eyes and found nothing but sincerity staring back. "Alexander," she whispered, I feel the same. I've been scared because this feels so real, and I didn't want to lose it before it even truly began. But I can't deny it anymore. I want this too, all of it, with you." They stopped, the world fading away, leaving only the rush of the river and the warmth between them. Alexander took her hand, his grip gentle but firm, as if anchoring them to this perfect moment. "Then it's decided," he said softly. "We face everything together. Whatever comes, I won't let go." A single, happy tear slipped down Sophia's cheek as her lips curved into a smile. The rest of the afternoon was a beautiful mosaic of new memories. They picked wildflowers by the riverbank, shared ice cream from a street cart, and traded childhood stories that brought both laughter and nostalgic sighs. With every shared glance and easy laugh, they wove themselves closer, layering trust and a thrilling intimacy. As evening painted the sky, Alexander suggested a detour through the old city's charming, narrow alleys. The setting sun cast a golden glow on the cobblestones, creating long, cinematic shadows. He gently took her hand, their fingers intertwining naturally, a silent promise of connection. They arrived at a secluded square, where a fountain shimmered in the last rays of sunlight. Alexander stopped and turned to face her, the breathtaking city panorama stretching out behind him. "Sophia," he began, his voice deliberate. "From the first moment I saw you, I felt something I can't explain. You've changed my world in ways I never imagined, and I don't want to imagine a single day without you in it." Her eyes widened, tears pooling as her heart hammered against her ribs. "Alexander, I feel the same," she said, her voice trembling. "You've brought so much color to my life and real hope." He took a deep breath, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small, elegantly wrapped box. Sophia gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Alexander opened it, revealing a delicate, exquisite ring that caught the fading light perfectly. "I know it's sudden," he said, "and we've only just begun. But I want you to know my intentions are serious, and my heart is entirely yours. Sophia, will you be with me, truly, completely, and forever?" Tears streamed freely down her face, a beautiful, overwhelming wave of emotion. She nodded, unable to speak at first, then whispered, "Yes, yes, Alexander, I will." In that instant, the world seemed to burst into color. The fountain glittered and the city lights began to twinkle as if celebrating with them. He slid the ring onto her finger, and they embraced, holding each other tightly, lost in the certainty of a love that had bloomed from a chance encounter into a profound, life-changing connection. For hours, they walked the city streets hand in hand, the doubts and fears of the past fading into insignificance. He had proven his heart belonged to her, and she had met him with equal trust. Back at her apartment, Alexander lingered at the door, holding her hands. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "I want to take you somewhere special, somewhere we can celebrate us, away from everything." She smiled, leaning in for a gentle kiss. "I can't wait," she whispered. He kept his promise. They spent the next days at a hidden vineyard, wandering through sun-drenched rows of grapes, tasting wine, and planning a future. They discovered that true love wasn't just in grand gestures, but in the quiet, sincere moments shared between two souls. They faced challenges, of course, the pressures of Alexander's world, the occasional shadow of the past. But every obstacle only made their bond stronger. They learned to communicate, to listen, to put each other first. Finally, on a quiet evening, Alexander brought Sophia to the rooftop of his penthouse. The city sprawled beneath them like a sea of stars. He held her hand, looking from the skyline back to her. "Sophia," he said, his voice rich with emotion, "you've changed my life completely. Will you be my partner, my love, my everything?" Tears glistened in her eyes as she nodded, no words needed. He pulled her into a long, tender embrace. From a late arrival at a wedding to this rooftop promise, their story unfolded like a perfect romance. Their love, born from fate and tested by life, now stood radiant and undeniable. A quiet promise of forever reflected in their eyes, a testament to the beautiful, unstoppable power of two hearts finding each other against all odds. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey of love and destiny. If you were as captivated as we were, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming stories. We'll see you in the next one.